At the bottom of the hour now, welcome back to Weekends with Alex Witt. I'm in for Alex this weekend. I'm TJ Holmes. Now we want to look back at this looming fiscal cliff. With me now, someone all too familiar with these fiscal cliff negotiations, Democratic Congresswoman Karen Bass, a member of the Budget Committee. Good morning to you. You are not quite in D.C. yet, but you are headed there soon. When you get there, though, what do you anticipate you're going to be doing?
Exactly. Well, good morning, TJ. Well, what I anticipate is going to happen is that the floor will be opening up on debate for a variety of bills. And frankly, in terms of the House, we're going to be waiting for the Senate to act. We do have other work to do. So I know that we're going to go in session and begin voting at 6:30 tomorrow evening. But I think, you know, the business is in the Senate right now. So let's see what Reid and McConnell come up with today.
Well, I have been hearing a lot of optimism. I shouldn't say a lot, probably, but some optimism this morning, at least in relation to these two men, McConnell and Reid, veterans being able to get something through the Senate. So there's some optimism they'll be able to come up with something, but the issue is now what happens in the House. Where is your optimism in terms of whatever they send over to the House is going to be something that all of you all are going to be able to pass?
Well, let me tell you, I am optimistic, and I'm optimistic for a few reasons. This is really a repeat of what happened last year around the payroll tax extension. Reid and McConnell negotiated it, and then the House passed it. I think that you don't call 435 members of the House back to travel across country without feeling some confidence that a deal is going to pass. And so I really think that the issue is going to come down to whether or not Boehner will allow his caucus to vote and not insist on the dogmatic principle that 100% of his caucus has to agree on a bill. You just can't manage things that way, I don't believe.
Okay, we can't manage things this way, but it is infuriating that we're here anyway. But it's also infuriating, as I've been hearing from everyone I talked to this morning, that we're talking about a handful of people that are holding the paychecks of this entire country hostage. Everything goes back to what Boehner is going to be able to do.
Right.
We shouldn't be functioning this way, no doubt. So how are we going to get around that if needs be this time? Because the clock is running out.
Well, I think because the clock is running out, and the other thing that you have to remember is that a number of his members are not coming back next year. They either have retired or they lost their election, and so those are some likely votes that could join with Democrats. You know, depending on what the deal is, and of course I can't speak on behalf of my caucus, but I will tell you that the bill that the Senate passed earlier this year to extend the tax cuts for those earning $250,000 and below, I do believe that the majority of my caucus would have agreed to that. And then if you have a handful of Republicans, the problem is that he has been wedded to this principle that his caucus all has to act in lockstep fashion. Okay. That's the problem.
Let's listen to the president. The president was modestly optimistic at times. Well, he said that yesterday. He was modestly optimistic, and he even has a backup plan. But let's listen to the president. I'll ask you about it on the other side.
Sure.
I just had a good and constructive discussion here at the White House with Senate and House leadership about how to prevent this tax hike on the middle class. And I'm optimistic we may still be able to reach an agreement that can pass both houses in time.
In time is the key. If there is any holdup of any kind, once the House gets it, maybe, okay, this is just, again, this is best case scenario. If you all get it, maybe Sunday night. If you all get it Monday morning. Is there enough time, Congresswoman?
Yes, I absolutely believe there's enough time. And what it probably is going to be is that we would be voting until late at night on Monday. You know, I mean, if you think about it historically, this is legislative drama. But, you know, when it comes to writing legislation, it's not like they're writing it by hand. I mean, I do think that there is plenty of time. I know that sounds crazy. Now, what I don't believe there's plenty of time for is the grand deal. So what I think that we will have will be a smaller deal that will prevent taxes from going up on 98% of the U.S. public, and we'll take it from there.
Well, would you be okay with us, someone suggested this morning, going off the cliff a little bit? You know, just falling a few feet off the cliff, not bungee jumping off the cliff, which means, you know, it goes into a couple of days into January, maybe a week or two, to where it doesn't do, I guess, that much damage, relatively speaking. Would you be okay with that?
Well, you know, I wouldn't. I mean, I don't think that we should. I mean, what signal does that send to the country and then to the world? But the one thing that you have to remember about that little bit off the cliff, it's the millions of people whose unemployment is going to cut off. And so, you know, there are drastic consequences, and I think it would be irresponsible of us. And maybe I'm the eternal optimist, but, you know, with 2 or 3 days left, believe it or not, I do believe it's enough time for us to come to a deal to avert the fiscal cliff, and I'm confident that that's going to happen.
And you said irresponsible of us, speaking of the entire body, Washington itself. But all of the blame, and it's hard, depends on what side you're on, but I guess for the American people, everyone agrees on this one thing. Taxes should not be going up for 98% of the country next Tuesday. So why in the world can we not agree? But are they going to hold it against all of you, do you believe? And should they? Or do you think the way this is playing out, the American people are going to hold this against Republicans and maybe just a handful of some of those folks surrounding Boehner and pressuring him into the corner he's in right now?
Well, I do think that it looks bad for both houses, for both parties. But at the end of the day, I'm sorry, but I just don't think it's equal. The Democrats don't have a Grover Norquist that threatens the caucus if they even think about voting for taxes. And I do think that the U.S. public has seen the differences between the parties.
Well, I think a lot of people, and certainly a lot of our viewers, would agree with you on that. It's not just it's not necessarily equal blame right now. Congresswoman Bass, you have a safe trip back over to Washington, D.C., and absolutely good luck over there. And if I don't talk to you again before next week, Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year.